Hi, this is Dubfire. I'm here during soundcheck at Public Works, where I'm going to be playing later, and I am very happy to be in the company of Ian Golden and DJ Trucos. For me, DJing is not about necessarily your technical skill. When I was really young and going out in Washington, D.C., I remember there was two clubs next to one another, and both of the residents of the clubs were English, and they were bringing back the most incredible music I'd ever heard. One of them, was technically incredible. He could mix a variety of genres very easily throughout the course of a night, and he would play open to close. Actually, both DJs would play open to close. So for me, that's always been the norm. One DJ could mix beautifully, and the other one was train wrecking every single mix. But he'd never lost the dance floor, and both clubs were always jam-packed with people. The one that couldn't mix would always try to teach me the importance of programming. It's like what you play, not how you play it. The other guy, of course, didn't really agree with that philosophy. They had two different sort of approaches to the art form of DJing. I really learned a valuable lesson from both. I wanted to be technically proficient at the art form, and at the same time, I understood the importance of what tracks you play at particular points of the night, in what order to elicit, to basically connect with the crowd and to own them, for however long you're going to be playing. That's the thing. It's have people come in here, strangers that you've never met before, and try to connect with them through that, through the music, through the technology.
Out here on the dance floor.
I got kind of bored with just playing tracks. It's very easy to load a deck and just play a track. So I started getting into the sample decks and creating a loop library that I can pick from and create groups of loops for the sample deck that work really well together. So for instance, this is a typical drum loop, but when you add a bit of melody from another record, and what I try to do is I always key all my tracks. I mix in key, so I always have key lock on, and it actually, it doesn't sound as good as when you have key lock disengaged, but for me, I end up playing sometimes two tracks that don't really belong together from two completely different genres, but you can actually blend them very nicely if they're in key. You can find a way to make them work together if they're in key. I'll just use this for drum loops to layer underneath a lot of what I play. Some of the tracks that I play, the way the producers have made it, they're good, but they need a little, more energy. So, for instance, there's no bass in these loops, so I'll bring in, that. And then I'll use, I'll use the effects from Traktor, the same effects that we all have access to, but I'll try to come up with, my own sort of sound, so to speak. Guys like Richie Hawtin have been really instrumental in creating, with effects, their own unique style of affecting things, and eventually that seeps into how they play throughout their entire set, so they're able to create a very unique way of performing just with effects. So a lot of people talk about my rattlesnake effect, which is just this tape delay thing that I have. What I try to do a lot of times is to create a new version of what I'm playing just by looping different songs together. And maybe I'll eventually, I mean, if I'm having too much fun just looping parts of a track, I'll just leave it at that. And other times, eventually I'll kick in the track, and then it creates a pretty great feeling in the whole room. So yeah, actually I had this idea. I wanted people, the fans, to like submit loops online and submit them into like a Dropbox folder, and then I would just like, you know, half an hour before the gig I'd download it, warp mark it, and then not really, you know, really getting into what each of the loops sound like, and just kind of winging it and playing and seeing if I could last for an hour. I've failed many times. Yeah, hitting the wrong button or just losing the crowd, playing a track that you know, maybe the time to play it was miscalculated. So you need to feel exposed, otherwise what's the point of living? You know, you need to feel excited about what you're doing, and sometimes taking yourself outside of your comfort zone gives you that feeling. I used to play with Machina, and sometimes, you know, I still do, but I started to use Push, mainly because of all the cool things that I can do with it. Where do I begin? It's pretty crazy looking. So I have loaded my live session with MIDI clips that I can launch. For instance, and I have a lot. This is like a ride. So I can add other things to the ride if I want, or have a different ride pattern. Let's go to a clap. No, my clap's not playing. Okay. And then I have like a reverb effect and a couple different delays that I can affect these drums with. So I can create these cool little moments. So this is sort of like the session view with the preloaded the MIDI clips that I have in here, and I can also launch audio clips as well. When I go into the note view, I can do other things like actually program on the fly. You can kind of just do that if you want. Yeah. I'll go into record mode as well, and I love playing with the velocity of the pads, so I'll do something like so then it's just going to repeat forever. And then maybe I'll add a lower part. I can also play with the pitch. Turning on automation, I can actually, and engaging the record, I can actually record that. Exactly. The key is to use this technology to find your own sort of voice within it. You know, that's the key. You know, we all have access to the same tools, but it's you know, it's how you use it, it's how you give it a personality, your personality, that I think makes you unique, makes you stand out from everyone else, because everyone's a DJ now. Really, it's like those moments that happen not during your entire set, but at given, you know, times within your set where a certain track that you're playing, or a group of tracks, or when you're flowing, they just really connect and resonate like with the crowd. And you can kind of, you know, it's very hard to explain, you can kind of feel a reciprocated sort of energy and response. You know, sometimes it's vocal, sometimes it's them screaming or jumping up and down with their hands in the air, and other times it's more cerebral, it's more these particles in the air that they're kind of, it's a vibe that they're passing through you, and you're grabbing it and you're throwing it back to them, and it's like a great, when you're in perfect sync and synergy with the crowd, it's a great place to be, to exist in. Those moments are like a drug. They can make you feel really intoxicated in the same way that alcohol or other things sort of can intoxify the body. It's like a blissful feeling that you get. And I think one of the reasons why I got into DJing is to always try to you know, experience those moments. See you online. Yeah? Cool.